Hello, parents, grandparents, future parents, and curious minds. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Steven.
And I'm PJ.
And this is
Dad's Discuss.
Nice. That was
I like it.
Tried and true Guinness right there, sounding perfect.
It's always a lovely day for a Guinness. I myself am drinking a Samuel Adams, always a good decision.
Yeah, and we're sitting down at a nighttime for the first time after Father's Day. So
That's right.
How'd your Father's Day go, PJ?
It went great. Glad you asked. How about yourself?
It was good. We got to go for a run in the morning, which is always nice. And we made it to Mass for my fatherly blessing. And we got to spend time with one side of the family. So that was good.
Nice.
Always a good time. Just had some steak and hung out and talked. And mostly talked about parenting and stuff. Got some lessons learned passed down from that side of the family.
I like to hear it. We were fortunate enough to have both sides of our family get to come over. And then ironically enough, this year Father's Day happened to fall on mine and my wife's anniversary. So we were also celebrating that this weekend too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw those pictures and father pictures of you. It was a mix.
It was, yeah. She made one large post, which I liked because sometimes she takes pictures that I don't always see, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that one before.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm usually the poster in our family to social media. Catherine posts occasionally to let people know what's up, but I'm always using it.
We're definitely reversed in that respect. If I take pictures like I did, we went on a little trip last weekend, and any pictures I took, I just sent to her and then let her make a big post with it, whatever she wanted on.
Nice. And that was a impromptu trip, or did you guys have that planned for a while?
We had it planned for a little bit, and I'll go ahead and mention this to our listeners. We went to D.C. because the pandas are back at the National Zoo. You know, there for a while we didn't have giant pandas. They're always on loan from the Chinese. Well, we now have two of them back there, so we had tickets to go see them.
Cool.
And it just happened to coincide with the World Pride event that was happening in D.C., so we got to see the parades and floats of all of that going on as well.
Nice. Lots of people, I bet.
It was, very crowded.
Both for the pandas and the
yes. But that was good. It was good.
That's awesome. We haven't really planned much travel. I think we might head out potentially 4th of July, but who knows? We may stay home. We haven't solidified any travel. We were thinking we were going to do none over the summer just to save money and spend some time at home, but we'll see. We'll probably stay home. Who knows?
Okay. Well, that does not transition into our topic. I'm looking at our whiteboard here. We do have travel listed as a topic, but we're not going to talk about that one today, Stephen. I think what we're going to talk about this episode is medical.
Yeah. We decided just now, right before we started talking, that medical would be good because I got the diagnosis today that there's a slightly bulging disc in my neck, so that's been fun to deal with.
I'm sorry to hear that. This is the part where Steven's going to splice in some type of crowd reaction sound after he says that.
Oh, like the face slap from that one movie?
No, I'm sorry to hear that though, for real. So, has it been bothering you? Is that why you got it checked out?
Yeah, probably a few weeks ago I had some shooting pain in my shoulders, and it wasn't it started out feeling like it was sore, I was like, I've been working out. It's probably just DOMS, but then I went 2 weeks and it still hurt, and I was like, it doesn't feel like sore muscle because it's random pain and it's shooting down it's like radiating from the neck some, and so I went and got an MRI and they were like, yeah, it's bulging slightly, so yay.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That was a lot of mumbling to say that it hurt for a bit. Yeah.
Wow, that's rough. And for those of our listeners who don't know, DOMS would stand for delayed onset muscle soreness.
Right, yeah. When you go to the gym and you work out hard and the next day you're like, oh man, I thought that would have made me sore. And then the next day you can barely move.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, is that something that you're going to be able to have worked on, or?
Nah, with bulging discs, it's the step before a herniated disc. And even with a herniated disc, the doctor was telling me they may or may not do any surgery to take care of it because there's not much you can do because it's essentially the spacer between your uh,
Vertebrae.
vertebrae. So most people just get essentially an epidural that kills the pain for a year potentially, and then typically it comes back. Sometimes it is alleviated by that. So I'll be just dealing with it. Supposedly it runs in the family. So my mom deals with that kind of thing, and so does my dad every once in a while, and so did one of my grandparents. So
Wow.
just gonna be a fun life, getting it in my 30s rather than later in life. I probably didn't do myself any favors with all the wildness.
Sports and everything, a lot of injuries. It'll creep up on you. I know once I hit 35, that check knees light came on.
Yeah.
But you brought up a good point talking about like something that occurs within your family history. That's something that I've noticed when taking our kids to the doctor. We've been fortunate enough that we don't get illnesses very often, but you do have to keep in mind the family history, things that could eventually come on, or things that may have already shown themselves that was probably predictable by what the family has.
Yeah, a lot of stuff you inherit from your parents and genetics drives a lot of your experience through life, right? So, mental illness and stuff, if you have that in your family, you can typically screen for it earlier in kids. So you take tests and tell the doctor, hey, family members dealt with this, and okay, we'll look for it.
Okay.
Yep. Keep an eye out. But that's kind of why the topic's on the board, because parents are the first responders for anything for their child, and they have to help describe the symptoms to a doctor too, because kids can't express how they're feeling usually, but you're observing them.
Yeah, or even if they are well adept at expressing themselves, sometimes it can be a little intimidating going into a doctor's office or something like that. So they may be able to explain to you, the parent, what they're feeling, and then might not be able to actualize it once they're there.
Right. Might be terrified of the doctor. I know our first one was scared of the doctor until like age 3, I think. And then the middle child adapted a lot faster, I think, because she saw her older sister. Now they both love their pediatrician. So we'll see what happens with the third one.
That's good to hear. Now, our youngest, she wasn't terrified, but she just did not like the shot aspect. And every time she went there, she just knew she was going to get a shot, so she was kind of petrified of the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, surprisingly enough, I hear a lot of children are kind of afraid of like dentist offices. Luna loves that. Like,
really?
She gets jealous when I have to go to get my teeth cleaned, and she's not going to the dentist. It's crazy. Funny.
Yeah, our kids like it too. I think it depends on the dentist.
I'm sure.
So ours goes to one. I think it's got like a lot of characters and stuff and fun things to do.
Well, that's how my dentist is.
Yeah, I mean, technically, my dentist has HGTV on above you, and you can watch a house get remodeled while you're getting your teeth cleaned. Our pediatrician is next to Edgar's, so whenever they got shots, they knew they'd get a cookie after.
Okay.
So now they associate it with a little bit of pain gives a little bit of pleasure, right?
Positive reinforcement. I like that.
Right.
We had mentioned this on a previous podcast, but you were talking about their pediatrician, and yes, we have that for our kids, but I myself do not have like a family practicing doctor. If I get an illness, I just go to the walk-in clinic, but you've mentioned that you do have like a family doctor that you go see.
Yep, that's how I got my MRI, and the latest result with the bulging disc is from my regular doctor. So it's nice. I mean, you technically don't need one, but it makes the medical system a lot easier, because if you're going to them yearly, even if that's how often you see them, you'll end up establishing a relationship of trust and things like that. And then they can, when they recommend another doctor, like a specialist or something, you give it more weight than going and trying to find a specialist yourself.
That makes
Like,
sense.
that's how I got my knee surgeon when I tore my ACLs. I went to my doctor first, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you tore your ACL. I'll send you to this guy. And he did a good job, so
Okay.
he did both knees then.
But not at the same time,
Not at
right?
the same time, 2 years apart. That's why I find the benefit in the general practitioner. And if you like to not be lectured, I would vote to go to a DO versus an MD for your general physician.
Okay.
Because the DOs go through a little bit extra school where they're taking a more of a holistic approach to your health. So they're looking at your mental state and your diet and your exercise and like everything all encompassing around your world. Like they have to check the box asking you like, have you felt sad or depressed lately, or like what are your stress levels and things like that at your annual checkup.
That's
So
not
it's,
something I'm familiar with. What is it? I know what a MD is, but what is a
I
DO?
think it's like doctor of osteopathic medicine or something like that. So it's
Okay.
an MD but with a little bit more training
All right.
basically.
Nice.
So a lot of there's like a little there's some obviously disagreements and things in the medical community, but I like the DOs a lot for the general practitioner
Okay.
because they'll first thing they'll do is like when you're overweight they go straight to diet and exercise and more natural path. And they almost always go more natural path first, and if it's not working they try and solve it with medicine.
I like that approach because one thing that I think many people joke about, but I've seen it firsthand, the older generations, especially, those of us who, well, you guys know we're in our 30s, those of us whose grandparents are still alive, they're just severely over medicated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, to the point that I'm not even sure if the pharmacies can accurately predict what's going to happen if you mix this medication with this one because they're getting prescribed them almost weekly.
Right, yeah, I agree. The And really, I don't want to be on that much medication. I'd rather just deal with the pain, right?
I
So
agree. No,
I'm a very minimal. I'll fight through a headache as long as I can, sort of thing. Even though I should probably cut it off at the start. um, yeah, I like the doctor I'm with because the last time I got a virus, I went in and got sought because it was like 2 days of misery. So I was like, can I come in? They saw me right away and he was like, well, it looks like it's a virus because it's not any of the other stuff that antibiotics would kill, but uh, you're going on a trip, so go get some antibiotics, but don't take them unless if you're still feeling crappy in like 3 or 4 days, then
oh, okay.
that they'll work on whatever bacteria, but otherwise just try and fight off the virus with, Tylenol and stuff.
I
So
got you.
nothing too strong or antibiotics. So they usually turn to try and fight it off rather than prescribe.
Yep, and I like the aspect you said about like mentioning about someone's weight because it's just very well documented how excess weight can be detrimental to
Oh
one's
man.
health.
Oh yeah. I've gained like 20 pounds and I feel like I have so many more health issues now than I did when I was in better shape. So,
It's easy to happen. I know we're sitting here drinking a beer, but it is, especially with children. It's hard to find time to take care of yourself on the level that you may want to or may have been used to before you had kids.
right. Yeah. Once you lose that hour in the morning that was so easy to find back in the day, it becomes way harder. Now I hope we're slowly gaining ground with the kids doing more active stuff with us, like we were just down at the pool and things like that. So we're doing exercise and that helps, and they like to go in the gym when we do, but it's still nothing to the level of a whole hour of just grinding it out in the gym like I used to do.
Absolutely. Now, I like you mentioned about the staying active with your kids. One thing we've been doing ever since she was really little, actually, but she was in the stroller at the time, is taking walks together.
Nice.
And so we've been able to keep that up. Now she wants to walk herself, which can kind of slow us down a little bit.
But that's still good.
Yeah, but it's still getting us outside, getting us moving around.
And it's teaching her to do it. So she'll get
Exactly.
faster and faster. And then a year from now, you won't be able to keep up with her.
That's right.
Yeah. Granted, if it's anything like my child, she'll stop every 2 feet to look at something. So it's not
Then you
even
catch
about
up.
the walking speed.
And if she ever takes her scooter on the walk, we always make sure that she goes in front of us. Yeah, eventually we'll catch up because she does stop. But if she's behind us, there's always that fear if you're going to get a nice plastic scooter to your ankle.
Yeah, yeah, I bet that feels good.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
speaking from experience.
Achilles heel, I'm down. The war's over.
Oh man, yeah, that's always painful when that happens. Or stepping on toys, the classic TV trope for dads.
That's a stereotype for a reason.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Pick up your toys.
So in terms of medical, you said you have your family practitioner and that all three of the kids, they're using the same pediatrician. So you were pretty active right from the start of getting them involved in some type of doctor's routine. That's good.
Yep, yep. And they, we've covered that before, our philosophy of taking our kids to everything. So if they're available, we take them to all our doctor's appointments with the eye doctor and the dentist and the regular doctor, and they talk to the doctor and see what we do. And that made one of them want to be an eye doctor when she came to it, but then she wanted to be an OB after she,
Oh, wow. All
the
right.
oldest one, had two siblings, and now she wants to be an OB. The doctor that catches babies, she says.
It's so interesting looking back because the pandemic really kind of like changed a lot of people's mindsets and how things operated. And you mentioning that you get to take your children into the OB now. And I just remember that even I was not allowed into like the ultrasounds during the
Oh, wow.
last part of Kimber's pregnancy because it was right in the middle of COVID.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They always let a +1 in for us, but that was it. Actually, I think we had our kid right before it got really serious in our state. I think it was like right before they cracked down even harder.
Okay.
They definitely didn't let anybody else in during the birth and stuff, but it was just me. But yeah, talking about medical, that was a wild ride.
Yeah.
I still remember the stress levels at work and everybody like worrying about like what you gotta do sometimes, but watching just like the maps they developed, watching it spread and stuff, because what was it, like 3 months before anybody took it serious in the States, I was watching it spread through Asia and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, you could
And then
watch
everybody
it.
started talking about it here, and I was like, oh gosh,
It's gonna happen, and then it did.
fun times. But speaking of the topic medical, like that's what you gotta deal with as a parent, is make decisions best to your knowledge of how to protect your family. And I think there's a lot of family turmoil and things like that, at least within my little bubble of disagreements on how you should handle things during that time, and caused a bit of a schism at least.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They sent our children home from school. I went virtual, and then after the next fall semester, they were considering letting kids back into the school, but you didn't have to, and we decided not to put them back into school because I mean it was still around, it was still an issue in my opinion.
Yeah.
So just that extra safety precaution, but like you said, it was our decision to make.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people learn a lot of stuff, good or bad, about medical things from that experience, because it shined a light on it, how ill prepared our system is for a huge run on hospitals and things like that, and how to keep your house clean and how to maintain contact with someone through a flu season or a pandemic or whatever.
Oh yes, definitely.
Luckily, I feel like the world's a little lucky that it wasn't as deadly as a virus, but isn't it something like the more deadly a virus, the slower it can spread, sort of thing?
Ooh, see, I don't know that.
But I take it with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure I heard somebody talking about that. I don't know how medically sound it is, but I thought I heard some sort of fact like that. So it did spread crazy fast, and it did take, I think, after the fact, the run on hospitals is really what caused the problem, because the right people couldn't get the right treatment. And
well, they didn't
all
really
the
have a
nurses,
treatment for my,
and it was so new,
Yep.
that it was, how do we deal with this? we'll see what happens when the next one comes, because we're a global world now, so it's not like this is the last pandemic, in my opinion. There'll be more.
No, I think that's a good point. Like when you hear of like things that occurred in generations past, I always go back to the Black Death. You know, that affected Europe. That's not a word.
The
it,
majority
the
of it.
majority of it. But I mean, if something like that were to occur in today's society, where people fly across countries on the daily, I think you would see spread of viruses more quickly, which is what we saw, within COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as you mentioned, a global society just brings a whole new set of issues with it.
Yeah. And I think those of us that played the game Pandemic Legacy probably were more prepared than others.
Oh yes.
So if you're listening out there, you should probably pick that up and learn how to combat a widespread illness. I don't know if you've ever played it. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
have,
good.
yeah.
Okay, good. Good stuff.
Now
Yeah.
the medical one is interesting. It's just so varied. Like there's so many different aspects to it.
Yeah, that's why it was one of our, broad topics. So after this, our last broad topic is religions. We'll have to dive into that at some point. And
Yeah,
then,
that'll probably be a multi-episode, and we'll come back to it. Some of these, there's just there are entire podcasts on the medical community. So this is just two dads discussing their
Yeah.
feelings about it.
right.
But yeah, some of these topics we'll certainly be touching on more than once.
Oh yeah, and I think the original vision that I had for the podcast was to cover all the general topics first, but we kept having all these fun things to intersperse since the start last year. So and
Side
we're
tangents,
almost
right?
coming up on a whole year.
Are we now?
Yeah,
We'll
we
have
started.
to make sure we wear little party hats next time.
Yeah, yeah. I think we started July 1st was the first episode or something like last year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I wrote down under medical because one of the things I wanted to talk about is like being the first responder, like I said earlier, and being that person that has the knowledge to say, I think it might be this. Let's either take you to the doctor tomorrow or the ER tonight.
Okay.
And that's something I think all parents probably need a base level understanding of, because I sort of do from Boy Scouts, and Catherine kind of does. And luckily, we have access to a nurse and a doctor in the family. So we're always like, this, and this symptoms. I can wait until 3 days from now if you need it.
Mm-hmm.
This, and this symptoms. You probably should go get them to the ER because they might be dying.
Okay. No. Yeah. That
Yeah.
definitely. But yeah, and then that's you said either knowledge from other familiar sources or picking up that knowledge yourself before you have the kids, or it's constantly evolving. I myself probably was not the best at like recognizing different symptoms, but I do feel like I am better at it now than I was before.
Yeah, you're more aware of it because you
Yep.
had lives that you're responsible for, and so now you're like looking back in your past and being like, all right, when I felt this way, was I dying or was I just
Exactly.
So we have a lot of interesting cases over the years. We took the kids. What a wild ride in the medical community for us, because last year I think it was like maybe every month or every other month we were at the ER for different things.
I'm sorry to
Between
hear that.
the birth of the child and me shooting a nail in my thumb and kids potentially swallowing little watch batteries because
Oh,
we couldn't
no.
find one, so we went to the ER to get an X-ray to make at like 1 a.m. to make sure they didn't swallow a battery.
Oh, was that the case or not?
No, luckily, Catherine eventually found that the device that we had only had 3 batteries instead of 4, because we couldn't figure out if it was supposed to have 3 or 4, and I think we found like 2, or maybe we found 3. It was something like that.
Okay.
So we were like looking online for these things, like trying to find one to see if it's like supposed to have 3 or 4.
Oh.
Eventually, I think the next week she found out that it had the same number that we found because she found another one.
Okay.
It was like a little Halloween ring thing of a spider. And so she was like, oh, it only had 3 in it. We're definitely good now. There's not one floating around the floor. That was definitely a scare because that was during the time the new baby was in the NICU. So we were all downstairs watching a movie to not worry about the new baby being in the NICU. Then that happened.
Oh, no.
I sat in the ER with the two kids while the mom went up and took care of the baby in the NICU. That was a fun night.
I guess so.
Yeah. Luckily, we live so close to the hospital. It's not as terrifying.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this before, but our middle son does have, diagnosed epilepsy.
Oof.
Luckily, he has only had 2 instances of this occurring, but he is on a daily medication to prevent it, and he hasn't had an episode in over a year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I will say, yeah, the first time that happened, yeah, extremely scary because that's not something I'd ever seen before. You don't know what's going on. It's terrifying to behold, but having access to hospitals in the nearby vicinity and being able to call EMTs rather quickly is definitely a blessing in this country that I don't think a lot of people fully comprehend how lucky we are.
Yeah. And, people talk about discrediting the medical community and things like that all the time in our country, but it's like, look how far we come. Why do you want to try and dismantle a system that probably half of us wouldn't be alive today?
Absolutely.
It didn't exist, and science hasn't gotten as far as it has.
Yep, I have the utmost respect for all the medical profession. I don't have any respect for insurance companies. That's a different topic. But yeah, you think about just the amount of education and training that they have to go into, and then, you're truly putting your life in their hands,
Yeah. Yeah, that harks back. I don't know if I mentioned that on the podcast before, but harks back to like level of trust with the contractor sort of thing. Like, you want those positions in society. Like, if I need to trust a roofer to do a job, I'm going to consider them not having, like, I want them to be trained and I want the best roofer possible, right? But if they screw up my roof, I can get up there and I know how to fix a roof. I'll put shingles on and stuff. If I'm going to find a doctor to help me tear open my knee and replace an ACL or whatever, I don't want to get some guy with barely any experience that's looking at a knee for the first time.
Exactly.
I want somebody well trained and has done cadavers and simulators and probably worked on like 5 or 6 humans before me, at least minimum.
Well, now if he's working on a cadaver, technically he's working on a human, but I know what you mean. I will say one thing that I used to rely on pretty heavily was user reviews, and unfortunately in today's day and age of AI and everything, I just can't trust reviews anymore.
It's so hard.
I feel like most of them are fake. Like they just are. It is how it is.
Yeah, at this point I take most of my recommendations from people who have used other contractors,
right, exactly.
or products or whatever it might be, or go to a movie. Really, movies are the only thing I'll still read reviews for because I think they're funny, but I always still want to watch the movie to see it for myself because there's tons of movies out there people don't like that I really love. So.
Yes.
You can't have a cult classic if
people
don't hate it.
Yeah.
Or if it's not unknown. But that's, that's what you want. Like, I don't read much doctor reviews, probably because I have the general practitioner that sends me to people. I think if I read doctor reviews, it'd probably be about the same. And then I had one experience with a tax professional. I won't name any names because I don't want to shoot someone in the foot, but I would not recommend them if somebody asked me for a tax professional because they didn't do a couple things, and I noticed it before I signed the tax documents, and I asked them about it, and they were like, oh, we'll get it fixed. And I was like, well, you better fix it before the tax deadline because I've never filed for an extension, and that's not cool. And they were like, luckily they made it okay because they were like, we'll pay any fees or whatever for the extension and penalties or whatever. Yeah, I went in and sat down with them and helped them fix it by the end of it. And it was like, they were like, maybe you should work for me. And I was like, I'm hiring you for a professional service.
Right.
Just because I know a lot about the tax code and just like I knew something was missing. I didn't know exactly what to do with it. I just knew I needed to file certain things for it. And it was just a mess. But bringing back to reviews, I left them a 1-star review after dealing with it for like 2 weeks and not getting responses.
Yeah, no, definitely.
They called me 30 seconds to like 5 minutes after I put the 1-star review out and like started chewing me out and stuff. And once they were done chewing me out, I was like, look, this has been my experience. It's a 1-star review with that experience. Don't you agree? And they were like, yeah, well, if you take it down, then we'll, do this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see it when I believe it before I take a review
Yeah,
down.
I mean and like I said, that those types of reviews are very useful because that is firsthand experience of you having a bad experience with this company, and yeah, they're going to be mad that you put that up there, but that's solely on you. You performed poorly, and now you're being reflected of that.
Right, yeah. So I would look for the same things with the doctor, but I agree with you. Like those systems, unless if you can find some way to lock it down to like true feedback or something, yeah, they just get swamped with garbage a lot
Yeah,
of
or
the
just
time.
literally, I can't tell if this is a real human being that posted this or if it was written by a computer program.
Yeah. So I don't know how technology. I mean, probably the first ones that can verify users in a good way that's free. Twitter, looking at you, X, whatever you're called. Verify it free that, it's an actual person behind it and own up to that and make it part of their platform. I don't think a lot of people are going to have faith in the tech industry for a while.
No, I
I guess
agree.
Facebook is kind of close to that, but even then, I've had so many friends get their passwords hacked and the bot, continues to act like them for
Yep.
several days. And it's like, but at least usually there it's tied back to an actual person. Like 90% of the time is my experience.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but just how anonymous online reviews can be, and I wouldn't necessarily say read reviews about certain medical organizations as a whole. Maybe I'm not sure about if you can even find a review for a particular doctor. I'm sure they do,
Yeah.
but it's not that's not something that I myself have ever looked up.
Yeah, I think there's like a site for it somewhere, kind of like Rate My Professor.
I do remember that one.
But, it all depends on who's reviewing and stuff. And
Yes.
people that have a negative experience are more likely to leave a review than people with a positive experience. So,
You ever see those trucks driving down the road that has a phone number and say, "How's my driving? Call
yeah,
this number."
who
Do you,
calls that?
do you ever want to call and leave a positive review like, "Hey, I saw this truck. He was doing a great job. I just wanted to let you
Man, he
know."
used a blinker. I have never seen that in my life.
I just feel like I agree with you. Like no one tends to leave positive reviews. It's usually when you have a negative experience that you're like, I got to tell someone about this.
Yeah, which I think is what we need to do for this podcast. We need to start generating some negative press around it and say some sort of outlandish medical thing in this episode so that people get fired up and want to listen to Dad's discuss. What's your hot take?
My hot take. Well, I already mentioned about being overly medicated.
That is a
no.
hot take for some people.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a hot take in the medical community. I appreciate all of our first responders and doctors, nurses. My hot take is that I think people who don't vaccinate are just foolish. Like, you're going against the medical community, you're going against years of research and science. So, if you're one of our listeners who isn't vaccinated, I highly, highly suggest to, follow the science. Don't follow the latest YouTube trend.
Right, yeah. I can, personally, I can give some leeway on new vaccines for people because all science should be tested. But once it's verifiable proof out there for a new vaccine, then yeah, you should probably do your part and keep everyone safe.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. I think I got a few hot takes on the medical community, but I don't know what would be a really good one. I'll think about it.
Okay.
I think one of them is just how we disseminate information and who's a trusted source. So, pre-COVID, I feel like the CDC was kind of an unknown entity, right? Like nobody really butted up against them other than doctors. Like you would go into the doctor and they'd be like, the CDC guidance says this for whatever thing. And even then, I don't think, I think I rarely had a doctor bring up the CDC that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And then you get a big pandemic and this organization gets blame or credit or whatever just thrown at it because it's some unknown entity to most people, and then now it's in the highlight and it's passing information in all the like weird wrong ways. Like I felt during that particular time, it was like, so here's the thing to do, right? And then that was it. It was no like, here's how we got to this, here's how we think about this, here's the thing that led into this, here's why we think it, right? It was just like, here's what you do to protect yourself. And I think that left way too many doors open for people to disagree, because it looks like you're hiding something if you don't give a person a why, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what caused a lot of turmoil in that time, was that the maybe not, well, yeah, it really is the CDC that's distributing, right, national information on a subject. But I mean, there's other organizations too. But I think that did a disservice to the medical community and put a smudge on it, that they were just like, do this to keep yourself safe and this is what we're recommending, but they didn't give a why behind it. It was just like, well, you're all gonna die because it's a pandemic. And it's like, yeah, but why is this gonna protect us, right? What's the buy-in? Like, who look back in history to the photos of, when the Black Plague and things like that, what were they saying then to get people to be safe and wear masks? And what was it, the smallpox outbreak or whatever, when they had the pictures of American baseball players in masks and stuff, and it was like,
Wasn't
what
that
were
the
they
Spanish
saying
flu?
then? Maybe it was the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
I don't remember everything, but I just remember seeing the photo and I'm like, yeah, who was leading at that time? Very inspirational picture, like rally the troops to fight a common enemy sort of thing.
Yeah,
And it was
I wouldn't.
missed.
I'd probably say I have to disagree on that one, in that we were under the inept leadership that we currently have today, and I think a lot of people were misguided, into trying to inject bleach and using ivermectin, a little horse tranquilizer. So I'm sure the CDC, they were scrambling just as the rest of the country was, but it certainly didn't help that they were getting truly awful information from the presidency.
Yeah, I mean, I agree there's weak leadership all around, but we watch the press conferences and the head of the CDC is leading most of the medical talk, so it wasn't like, no, this is why and things like that, and then they'd have to walk back things and adjust things, and it's like, they should have just been like, this is the information we have now, so we're leading to this recommendation. Trust us or don't trust us, but this is how we think you're gonna stay safe.
Yeah, and I think that's how most people took it. You
Yeah.
had those who trusted it, and then you have those who didn't.
Right.
And that just kind of put us in the situation that we are in.
And I think that the weak narrative, though, is why my theory is that people buy into the, like, well, why don't we try this or why don't we try that from the administration? Because there's no like set guidelines, because no one said, hey, this is, or I felt no one said, this is a new virus, we don't necessarily know how to contain it, but here's the guidance. It was just like, here's guidance, do it, because we're all gonna die if you don't, sort of thing. Felt like fear was controlling it rather than science, I guess, is what I'm saying. But
Yeah,
this is why it's my hot take and why I brought it up, because it got you to disagree with me.
yeah. Okay, all right then. I guess mine wasn't very a hot take then, because you were like, oh yeah,
It's a hot take for some circles. I mean, I can fight you on the. I have a little bit of disagreement with vaccines, and that, you know, natural immunity is still pretty strong, but why risk it if you can prevent your child from potentially dying? Like, the higher probability of them catching most viruses and death ratio versus getting a vaccine and no death ratio is an obvious choice, right? But people are still allowed to make that choice.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't remember necessarily being asked that question when Luna was born, but I do remember that I was with her throughout that entire process, and within, gosh, it had to be within about 10 minutes of her being born, they had already giving her some of like the early vaccinations.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was extremely quick. It was right after she was born.
I'm trying to remember if any of our kids had right after born. I feel like it was at the first doctor's checkup, which was like 2 days later or whatever. But obviously, I have sleep deprived memory, so I don't remember much. I know
Yeah.
they had some, baby comes out and they have some. Obviously, we had one in the NICU, so.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up, luckily, for his sake, we'll talk about vaccines a little longer. He got RSV vaccine because they finally developed the vaccine for that right when he was in the NICU. So
Okay.
he got on a list to get it early. And not like a month later, with the kids being in school, we had RSV, and he had, being in the NICU, he had lung issues. And the doctor was like, yeah, this probably would have been really bad if, because he had RSV at some point and he was coughing all night and stuff like
Okay.
that. And they were like, yeah, he might have gotten real serious if he didn't get the vaccination
Well,
in
I'm
the
glad that
NICU.
you were
So,
able to get that done then. Wow.
yeah, so that was awesome. That's my speaking to it. My philosophy aligns with yours that, I'd rather have a live child than a dead child. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I can I can hear the argument for the vaccines for like flu or something where it's like, yeah, prevent the flu, yes or no, maybe, whatever. I mean, it's good of the community, herd immunity, keep the elderly and extremely young safe, but you may not want to take it because you're not going to hang out with any of those people and you're just going to stay at your home and play video games. So if you're that person, don't worry about it, I guess, if you really care. I don't know. I am very I hark back. Medical almost harks back to personal finance. For me, it's like personal finance is personal. Medical's also personal, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good point. I I don't know. I understand why you have medical anonymity, if that's what it is. Like you don't want your personal medical records being shared with anyone unless you specifically ask. That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand like why they do that. I also feel that that can be a hindrance when it doesn't mean to be. When you have situations, say your child's in school, something happens, and unless you're on that list, like you can't be told anything about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know if it was a child in your kid's class or whatever that has like a nasty virus, whatever it is. Yeah, I get that. For me personally, I don't care if people know my medical history. I'll Like, what are they gonna do? Poison me more
Are they going to
efficiently? That
poison your
seems fine.
bulging discs
Yeah,
too?
exactly. They'll know my weak spot when they're coming to like judo chop me or something.
My weak
Like,
spot is
if
definitely a scooter to the ankle, as I've mentioned.
yeah, like if somebody's already gonna come do harm to me, with like gaining my medical records and figuring out a more like they can buy a gun and that's gonna end my life. You
Yeah,
know, like doing it in a more sneaky way, whatever.
it is.
Maybe there's something I haven't thought about of somebody getting my medical records, but that's all I can think about.
Right. I will say that it is important, at least in my opinion, for what they call preventative care, especially when it comes to things like dental.
Mm,
I've seen situations where children, as young as like toddlers, are having essentially like root canal style work, like screws being placed in, and that's just stuff that really could be avoided if you allow yourself to take care of your children's health and
yeah,
take them to the specialist that they need to go to.
yeah. Well, I mean, not even like if you're already going to a dentist for a problem, it's probably too late to prevent it, right? But
Right.
if you start it early and keep it going, right, it'll pay dividends. And then the other thing is a lot of that is dental stuff is at home, right? So like flossing, brushing, avoiding sugary drinks and leaving them in your mouth and things like that.
Yep. So
Like the
having that knowledge as a parent to know what you can and cannot give your child to help make sure that they are going to stay as healthy as possible.
Yep, yep, and living by that example. So yeah, you see a lot of trends of the kids look almost exactly like the adults that are, for lack of a better term, overweight.
Oh yeah, because you
because
tend to
they're
eat the same.
modeling.
Yeah, you
Yeah, you're
tend. Yep,
eating.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, some people will blame it on genetics, but obviously there's more to it than that. Like,
Oh yeah, I think
I
there's a
was
lot
ahead.
more to it.
Yeah.
Habitual,
Yeah,
things that you
eating and,
pick up
yeah.
from your parents or that you unintentionally pass off to your children. Like
Yeah.
if I'm telling my kids brush your teeth every night, but then they don't see me brushing my teeth every night, they're gonna get into that habit of, well, dad's not doing it, so why do I have to?
Yeah. Or if they see me throwing back soda and they're like, why can't I drink soda? They're probably going to try soda at some point and see what it's like.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, we have the rule of, no caffeine until you're 12 based on the science, and then no sugar as long as we can. No sugary beverages.
Really,
We
no
try and avoid
caffeine,
that.
huh?
Yeah, there is a couple studies out there. No one, obviously, we're not medical advice, but I was saying as long like caffeine really affects the body in different ways during growth periods. So until they're like 12 or 13, it's best to avoid it.
Sprite and water. All right.
Yep.
Now, I
Yep.
would say that's interesting you mentioned that because you talk about how children pick up on the habits of their parents. I love coffee, and I love caffeine. I have been trying to back off on the sodas mostly from the sugar aspect, but I drink coffee daily, and as such, our children have requested to try coffee, so occasionally we'll mix a spoonful
Yeah.
of coffee in with a cup of milk for them.
Spoonful's not gonna.
Yeah.
Cause we're talking about like the levels we're drinking now, sort of
Oh
thing.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
the level I'm drinking now, I definitely was drinking as a child too.
Yeah.
Man, you remember Ball's Energy?
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. I believe the study. I don't remember how much it was, but it was definitely more than like a can of soda of caffeine could have an effect daily or whatever.
Oh, that
But it
makes
was like,
sense.
having a blanket rule in the house, don't have this until you're older. It gives them a milestone to reach, and then it also, prevents having to have an argument about why you can't have it, and things like that. And now it's developed a almost a routine around it with the kids going like, "Oh, you're drinking soda, yuck," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, Dad's addicted hard."
Well, that's good. Then
Yeah,
they can unintentionally like help you if
yeah,
you're trying to back off like that.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
funny how certain aspects they pick up. I know our youngest is very vocal about seatbelts because me and my wife, we always put on our seatbelts. And so every time we get in the car, if I've started the car and she notices like her brother hasn't put his seatbelt on yet before I start backing out, she's on to him. She's like, "Put on your seatbelt right now."
that's awesome. Siblings tattling on it. Well, not even tattling. She's just bossing.
Yeah, she's just more like giving an order. She's not telling us that he's in the wrong. She's telling him you're wrong.
That was pretty good. How do you guys handle the car seats? Speaking of medical, we've decided like to just follow the like absolute maximum amount of time of facing backwards. That's what we did with our oldest. She's finally forward facing because she got the linked torso or whatever that was recommended on the car seat.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's not something that we had seriously looked into. We just faced her backwards until it was, physically uncomfortable. Like her legs are sticking up, and her feet are hanging over the
Then you
back
were
of the
probably
seats.
pretty accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so then, but I'd say she's been forward facing for about the past year. So around age
That's
4 is
probably
when it
about
happened.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our oldest was like 4 1/4 or something like that before the right height hit.
Okay.
So sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those medical things that's like if you were to get in an accident, we should all be riding backwards facing, right? Because
Yes.
it's
What's your
gonna likely be the most safe. But I was like, she looks so painful sitting backwards
No.
for so long.
That is interesting, but that's one thing that has really come a long way that I'm very appreciative of in the medical and safety community. You look at even 50 years ago, and if you did have a car seat, it was like a metal cage essentially you're strapping the
Yeah,
kid into. Otherwise, you're literally just having the mom sit there in the front seat right in front of the airbag and holding the baby.
yeah.
So
Which I'm sure 9 times out of 10, if you're driving safe, you're gonna be fine. Like, But, that one time,
That's right.
scary stuff.
It is.
We all drive these motorized death machines that are really fun sometimes, but
Yeah, and I haven't looked at this statistic recently, but I know there for a while the number one cause of death was auto accidents. That may not be the case anymore, but
yeah, I don't know.
but there for a while it certainly was.
Well, if you're talking on a global scale, we got some wars going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In the U.S., probably still is, I would bet, because those things are dangerous.
Yep, and unfortunately, I do know that, and I think it's just because we have an aging population, and we're also getting better at diagnosing these things. But I think cancer and heart disease has really been creeping up there, and
Yeah,
the number of deaths that we see, and so, which is why it's so important to keep yourself as healthy as possible. Sometimes you can't prevent
yeah,
certain cancers, but most heart diseases, you there's a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty reliable data on what can be done to help your chances of not developing it.
yeah. Yeah, cancer is like one of the big medical mysteries left. That and IBS.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been helping my son as he was finishing up 8th grade, helping him with some of his biology coursework and reading up stuff that I don't necessarily remember ever having touched on in grade school, but learning about how cancer mutates, what exactly it is, how the cells regenerate. That was
Yeah.
actually rather fascinating.
It is very fast. Catherine took a class on it once, and she was like, "Man, it is so cool to learn about that, but it's
Yeah.
also a terrifying thing."
Exactly.
But I mean, most cancers today, if you catch it early enough, they can do something about it, and you have a higher chance of survival.
Yep, which is why I think, like I said, it's just important to
Get-
allow these institutions to, continue their research. There's
Right.
always something more to learn.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, and there's, gosh, even we recently lost a family member to cancer, so it needs to be done. But if you don't go get screened, though, they're never gonna find it.
This is
Like
true.
some people, and we're talking about medical here. I'm one of them that probably should go to the doctor for more things sometimes because you never know what it can be. And most of us men, I try not to be, but most of us men are very stubborn about getting something checked out, and that can kill you.
Yep, no, I know that's true. Speaking of which, I do have a story that I don't mind sharing. This was just a few months ago, actually. There was a spot that kind of developed on my face, right in between my eye and my ear. And Kimber was the one to mention it. She's like, "What is that?" And I said, "I don't know. I thought I had nicked it when I was shaving, but it's still there." And she kind of just took a glance at it and she said, "You really need to get that checked out. Like, that doesn't look normal." So I did. I hadn't been to the dermatologist in about 3 years. That's on me, not doing the
Yeah.
preventative care like I should. So I did go to the dermatologist. They looked at it. They gave me a full checkup, and they noticed that instantly. They said, "Yeah, that's definitely skin cancer."
Wow.
And so we need to get that taken off. No, good on the medical community. That's not a big deal anymore. They scheduled a procedure that removed everything of it, so it's gone now. But as you mentioned, me either not caring enough or not noticing enough to go get it checked out. But had I not, it would have just been there.
Yeah, and anything on your face can escalate real quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you gotta get that knocked out. Did you get results? Was it like benign or was it active?
No, it was, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's why they had to go in and clear everything. It was a pretty deep hole in my face. I'll show you the picture.
Wow. Jeez. We'll post that on the picture
That's
for the
right, yeah.
episode, just so everybody. No, I'm
Big
just kidding.
face
I
on.
won't do that to you.
But yeah, so like I said, getting checked out, and it made me think twice about going out now. Even if I'm just mowing the lawn, I make sure to put on a little sunscreen
And a
because I
hat.
probably was not active enough at doing that in my younger years, especially working construction and being in marching band. We didn't wear sunscreen then, but
Yeah.
looking back, we're like, I really should have.
Yeah, it should have.
Yep. But
But
now we can do
the-
that for our children. I
The
make sure.
science wasn't properly dispersed.
Yep.
Yeah. My wife's family is big on skincare because of their family history and everything. So I've been learning those lessons, and now I wear a hat anytime I'm outside. Right.
That's
So
good.
dermatologist went to him and they were like, hey, you got a bald spot. You should be wearing a hat every time I was like, thanks for calling me out.
Right?
Well, man, that's a lot for a very generalized episode, and we're about an hour. You got anything left for us?
No, but I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to us talk, whether it be about this or any other topic. And if there's some things you'd like us to dive deeper into, any of those hot button issues that Steven mentioned, or some of your own, certainly reach out.
Yeah, and if you're a medical expert and want to come on and chat, I'd love to have you. I know I've been trying to convince my cousin, who's a pediatrician, to come talk to us some point. So
that would be fascinating.
Maybe I can pull that hat out of the bag. Tell him I'll bring him to Space and Rocket Center or something.
There you go.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Dad's Discuss.
Please like and subscribe wherever you are listening.
Also, comment any topics you would like us to discuss and share this with your friends and family.
Finally, if you would like to be on the podcast or discuss any topics, please reach out via our contact information below.